The paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Talking Weird here on the Untold Radio Network. I'm your host tonight, Dean Bertram, and I'm just delighted that I can share with you what's going to be screening at MidWest WeirdFest this year, which is next weekend in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, March 3 to 5. You would think I know those dates by now. I've been saying them for long enough. And it's at the Micon Downtown Cinema, and it's just loaded with films and fantastic guests. I'll take a moment to say hello to everybody in the chat, though. Good evening, Ken. It's great to have you here. And hello, Horace. It's wonderful to have two of my favorite viewers and listeners here. I'm sure there are more of you, which I will get to. If I miss some of you, thank you, Pine Island Research. Wonderful to know you're here as well. If I miss some of you going back and forwards tonight, I will try to catch up because I have just a load of trailers to share with you. It's funny, though. We've done this show the last couple of years in the lead up to MidWest WeirdFest, usually myself and my sometimes now co-host Jen Durrell. But we weren't on the Untold Radio Network before, so this is a more family-orientated channel. So I've never had to be careful of the content on trailers that I show. And I was watching some of the trailers just beforehand. I loaded them all in, actually with the help of my wonderful co-host on Mysterious Library, which you should check out every Tuesday at 9 p.m. on Untold Radio Network. Jason had actually uploaded these for me, Jason McLean. And I was watching them and I was going, I can't show this. This is too gratuitous. So when I can't show a trailer, I will tell you. And if you're interested and you're an adult, go and find it on YouTube or Vimeo or Google it. It isn't particularly hard to find. Hello, my good friend Tim is watching tonight as well, which is awesome to know. And Nancy, it's great to know you're there. So I'll start off by saying, I was going to save this to the end, but I might as well get everybody who's watching now. If you come to MidWest WeirdFest this year, again, it's at Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So if you're in QE distance, you should come. There's lots of hotels and the like in the area. If you come and buy a season pass, and they're super affordable, it's like $55. It gets you into the whole weekend of movies. It's probably the cheapest festival pass on the planet for this kind of caliber film festival. But usually it's only the feature filmmaker guests who get the dog tag pass every year. This is off its chain at the moment. These just arrived. It's a wonderful collectible pass, metal with the logo on it, and of course you get the standard dog chain as well. And you'll see the feature filmmakers in attendance always wearing them. You buy a pass, you don't normally get that. That's just for filmmaker guests. If you're watching this show tonight and you've already bought your pass, or you do buy a pass, and this isn't the day passes, this is you've got to get a full season pass, message me, or just come up to the festival and say, hey, I saw you offering to give those dog tag collectible passes to anybody who bought a pass on Talking Weird, or put it, or even comment in here. I'll see it and I'll make sure you get one of those passes at the festival. So I guess maybe we can jump straight into it. The first film of the festival, the opening night film, which I'm just so absolutely delighted to have, is directed by Mark Polish. I've been a fan of Mark Polish since Twin Falls, Idaho, which was a wonderful independent film, which was really his breakout film he did with his brother in 1999. And it was when I was heavily getting into independent film, and it was a massive influence on me. I watched that film again and again and again. And you've probably seen other films by the Polish brothers, like The Astronaut Farmer, Norfolk, Jackpot, what is it called? Jackpot Nevada, I think. Anyway, they've done a bunch of films. They're all wonderful. He's an incredible talent. And we have his new film, Murmur, opening the festival. And Mark Polish is coming to the festival to intro and to Q&A. And he seems like a wonderful man. And it was a big fanboy moment for me to talk to him on the phone because I've been a fan for so long. of his. And so the wonderful thing about MidWest WeirdFest too is we're a super social festival. Who anybody who's ever been there will tell you it's not like if you're a star or you're a filmmaker, you don't hang out with the audience. Everybody hangs out. It's a super intimate festival. I've been running festivals for close to 2 decades now, certainly going to them that long. I've been running them for over 15 years. And this is the most intimate festival I've ever run, with all kinds of wonderful guests coming in every year as well. Very special. Filmmakers always love it. The audience always love it. But I thought maybe we'll start by showing the little teaser trailer here for Murmur. And again, you have to excuse me if I drive slow tonight because I'm by myself. Here it is.
We know what we're doing, right?
It's okay, we'll figure it out.
It's a little teaser, perhaps more than a trailer. The woman in that, the young woman, is actually Mark Polish's daughter, Logan Polish, and she's spectacular. It's a wonderful young cast. It's essentially about these YouTube type celebrities who decide to go and play or investigate this famous virtual reality game. I guess it's like, what was that Pokemon game which people used to play and you'd wander through reality and look on your phones? But this one becomes far more sinister, and it's thought of and directed and, realized in the wonderful, weird imagination that we're used to from Mark Polish, which is just spectacular. Speaking of wonderful and weird imaginations, a few years ago, we had a film at the festival called Lake Michigan Monster, which was by Ryland Brixton Cole Chews and Mike Cheslick. And this year we have their latest film, which is called Hundreds of Beavers. It's absolutely hilarious. If you've seen Lake Michigan Monster, you might have a vague idea of what you're in store for. The director, Mike Cheslick, is coming along with some of the cast and crew, and that's our second film on opening night. That's at 8:30 p.m. And I'm going to show you the trailer for that now. I don't really have, once you've seen it, I don't even have to describe it. It's so off the wall. It's just crazy. It's a big hit on the festival circuit at the moment, and we're delighted to have it at MidWest WeirdFest this year. It's absolutely hilarious. For those of you listening, not watching, it's kind of this black and white Looney Tunes live action period piece about this trapper who has to fight hundreds of beavers to win the girl and the rest of the good stuff. Anyway, just hilarious. It's wonderful to see Mothman 46 there in the comments, as well as Ed Schultz. Hello, everybody. It's wonderful that you're joining us. I hope some of you come and join us at MidWest WeirdFest, because I'd love to meet some of you that I haven't met in person. Anybody in the kind of Midwest area should come in. And if you can't come this year, think about it next year. We're every first weekend in March. We've been going for 7 years now. And again, we have all kinds of wonderful guests. We're going to get to some more of them in a minute. The next film trailer, I actually can't probably show you here on the Untold Radio Network. It's called Pig Killer. It's based on the true story of a serial killer called Robert Willie Picton, played in this movie just spectacularly by Jake Busey. It's just an incredible performance. Chad Farron's the director, and I've been a fan of Chad Farron for probably close to a decade now. I'm playing his films for a big chunk of that. The festival before, we've done movies like The Chair, which was the last film the professional wrestler Rowdy Roddy Piper made before he passed. We did H.P. Lovecraft's Deep Ones, I think, a couple of years ago. We did Nightcaller last year. Just fantastic films, and this is a particularly dark serial killer movie. Definitely worth checking out the trailer if you're into those kind of films and finding it somewhere on the festival circuit. It'll get a release like all of Chad's films always do. I'll throw up the poster for you quickly because I can probably get away with putting up there. That gives you a sense of perhaps how kind of scary it is. It's a great film if you're into strong content horror movies. It's funny in parts as well. I suppose we have to laugh at sometimes the brutality in this world. Now, the next film, I think I can show you this trailer. So Pig Killer plays 10 p.m. on the Friday night, and Logger plays 10:30 p.m. also on the Friday night. So we play, sometimes we have multiple films running like most international film festivals do. So sometimes you have to choose what you want to see, which is, I suppose, just the way of the world when it comes to going to a festival. This movie's a very dreamlike horror film by Stephen Guypens. He was influenced by a fable called Death and the Logger by Jean de La Fontaine, and it's also inspired by Kurosawa's Rashomon, which is a film about different perspectives, a very famous film about, people see things in different ways. What's the truth? This is a very stylized horror movie that deals with some of those kind of themes. The trailer might be not so great for those who are a little squeamish, but it's not too bad, I don't think. But if you don't like a little bit of blood, maybe look away. Yeah, it's great. Very atmospheric, very nightmarish, very haunting. Definitely worth seeing if you're into nightmare type cinema. That rounds out the Friday night. We also have a lot of short films playing before the features, which don't have people there Q&Aing. And also we have 4 blocks of just short films of all kinds of amazing science fiction, horror, documentaries. In fact, next week I'll be having on the subject of the documentary, The Conspiratologist, which is worth checking out. So make sure you come back next week and watch that with Norio. So that rounds out the Friday anyway. On Saturday, we start with a number of short blocks, and we also have at 12 p.m. the wonderful new documentary for MUFON. It's actually the world premiere. It's Accidental Truth UFO Revelations by director Ron James. I had Ron here on Talking Weird a month or 2 ago now. You can by all means go back and watch that episode because we go into some depth about the documentary. I don't have a trailer for it, but you can go and find the trailer on the actual side of the film online. So if you go back and watch that Ron James one, it will link straight through. It's a fantastic documentary. It really brings you up to speed on what's happening at the moment as far as the type of UFO revelations we've been getting since Tic Tac back in 2017 when the New York Times kind of blew the lid off that story. And it has different interpretations of whether all of this is controlled information release, whether, in other words, if it's actually, kind of perhaps even disinfo, or whether it's actually is organically leaks coming to the forefront. They also, in the documentary, talk about perhaps what some of these entities might be. Maybe they're not extraterrestrials, meaning from another planet. Maybe they're from another dimension, or maybe they're here under our oceans and the like. And it's got an incredible cast. It's narrated by Matthew Modine, and it's also got Michio Kaku in it, Ralph Blumenthal, Richard Dolan, Donald Schmidt, who I've had on Talking Weird before, probably the most famous Roswell researcher out there these days, and wrote one of the wonderful books on Roswell. Nick Pope, Tim Burchill, John Alexander, Lou Elizondo. So a lot of heavy hitters, and it's going to be a really important documentary. I mean, it is. It just hasn't been released yet. We have the world premiere. It's worth coming to MidWest WeirdFest alone just to see that, because I think this will be the most talked about UFO documentary of the year when it drops. And there's the poster if I didn't flash it up already. It's great. Go back and watch that interview or listen to it with Ron James as well, because he is a switched on filmmaker, that's for sure. So that's at 12 p.m. on the Saturday. We also have shorts, like I said, playing quite a bit on the Saturday. And then we have at 2 p.m. an incredible animated horror film. It's clearly been shot with live action actors. And I don't know enough about animation to say whether it's been rotoscoped or how they've treated the actual live action cinematography, but it, again, in many ways, it's like Logger in the sense it's a really haunting movie. It's a very nightmarish movie. The visuals are very strong. It's about a man who kind of gets on the wrong side of perhaps a conspiracy of witches without giving away too much. But I'll show you the trailer. It's haunting, and it's just a wonderful film. It's directed by Roland Becerra and Kelly Bigelow Becerra. So here we go. Just mesmerizing. One of the things I try to do as the programming director at MidWest WeirdFest is have a wide range of cinema in the broad tent, which we call the weird. And I love to find films to share with the audience that they might not just stumble upon themselves. Like, if I can find a movie that is different to what they're just going to see when they turn on Netflix or go to the cinema, I'm going to program it, because there's all types of wonderful cinema out there today, very strange cinema. And some of the cinema is very, very accessible and commercial at the festival, but a lot of it is stranger stuff, and you're going to be delighted if you see it. It's things you're just not going to bump into. Lots of people saying nice things about the movies and how they would like to attend. And I would love to see as many of you again there as you could. Here's a wonderful one. Remember this name. This is from Robert Bryn Mann. The entire festival is absolutely stacked with great stuff, exciting. I'm excited he is watching. I'll get back to his name because he's one of the stars and writers of one of the features we're playing at the festival this year. In fact, I'll tell you its name and we'll get it to him in a minute. Welcome to Kitty Town. And he's just spectacular in it. He's hilarious. It's a buddy comedy, post-apocalyptic sci-fi kind of nightmare movie. Imagine if The Road met Shaun of the Dead. It's dark, but it's hilarious at the same time. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. I won't jump ahead of myself too much. So we were talking about Agatha just a minute ago, which was 2 p.m. on the Saturday. Now, following that at 3:30 p.m. Again, there are short blocks all through the festival as well. But the next feature on Saturday is a film from Australia. It's a wonderful film. I saw it some time ago before it screened anywhere in the world, and I recommended it to a Night of Horror International Film Festival, which is a festival I founded, I don't know, 15 years ago now, and Bryn Tilley runs it. And I saw this film submitted to MidWest WeirdFest, and I knew it would be perfect for a Night of Horror because it's an Australian film. It's also perfect for Midwest WeirdFest. So it world premiered in Australia, its home country, back in, I don't know, sometime late last year, and now we're doing the international premiere. So this is the first time it's screened outside of the country. I'm going to have to try to get the director's name right. I can be so bad with pronunciations. It's two directors. It's Luke Y.J. Asina Gray and Luke J.S. And they're a writer-director team. They both direct, and they're just incredibly talented. This movie is, I think, one of the best films I've seen and come out of Australia, period, in years. It's a spectacular, it's a haunting movie. I just love it. It's, again, something that you're not going to just see if you just happen to flick on, a random horror channel. It's a horror movie, but it's also an incredibly moving drama. It's really about a love story and what one partner will do when tragedy kind of intervenes to keep the love alive. Anyway, here's the trailer. I'll play it right now for you.
You staring at me?
No. It's just thinking how weird it is that we choose someone to spend our life with and we just live together and eat together, sleep together.
I love coming home to you. I miss you when I'm not with you. I want to have kids with you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. First time I saw you, I fell in love with you. Why is that weird, Val?
Just is.
Jeez, I love that movie. Hello, Joe Fox, one of our longest time viewers and listeners. It's always lovely to see you here. So, Your Love Is Mine is 3:30 on the Saturday. The following film, in fact, it plays kind of at the same time, so you really have to choose what you want to see, is Bigfoot and Marty, which I don't have a trailer for. I did talk to the director, Ronnie Ferguson, on Talking Weird again a month or so ago. It's a Bigfoot documentary unlike any Bigfoot documentary that I've certainly ever seen. It's about the poet laureate of the UP, Marty Akats, and he's a poet who specializes in poetry about Bigfoot. But they also interview people in the Bigfoot community, like Ken Gerhard, who's well known in the community, other Bigfoot researchers. So it looks not just at perhaps the phenomenon of Bigfoot, but the culture of Bigfoot, how it impacts people's lives. It's a wonderful movie. And they're both coming. It's the world premiere. So many of these films, I love having world premieres and international premieres and US premieres, and to be able to present to an audience a film that they probably well, sometimes that nobody else on the planet has ever seen out of the filmmakers themselves. So this is Bigfoot and Marty. There's Marty Achatz, the poet laureate, with his Bigfoot gloves and his Santa hat on. Just a very human documentary. It's great. I can't recommend it enough. Anybody who has an interest in Bigfoot or as part of the culture is just going to, I think, love that movie. And go back and check out the interview that I did with Ronnie Ferguson. He's an incredibly talented filmmaker. I love his style. It's a very simplistic, naturalistic style. Now we have another world premiere following that at 4 p.m. And we also have the director for that movie coming in, which many of you probably know. Melissa Tittle is the star of UFO Witness. She's in a bunch of other UFO and paranormal type shows. She was the head of, I think, programming and content or programming development at Gaia. She produced Ancient Aliens for several seasons. She's a heavy hitter in this paranormal UFO type world of entertainment. And we have the world premiere of her new movie, which she also features in, called Code 12, which is essentially Melissa looking at something which looks very much like we might be living in a matrix and talking to other people, researchers and scientists and paranormal investigators who've come to a similar conclusion. So it has Billy Carson in it, Cody L. Hofstetter, Dave Mark, Don Estes, Isaac Rodriguez, Mary Wheatley. It has Nassim Haramein. It has Jimmy Church, Robert Grant, Walter Bosley, William Henry. There's a bunch of people that you very well are aware of. It's a great documentary. I was so happy that we can do the world premiere of it. And I'll play the trailer for it now. And Melissa will be there to introduce in a Q&A afterwards. So again, a wonderful coup. I've got so many films at the festival this year. I'm just so honored that we're able to screen.
There's only one symbol that has haunted me since I was a child. A dream that has turned into an obsession. Something is trying to get us to put the puzzle together. They have laid out codes everywhere to understand it.
This goes back centuries. There may have been some type of relic or landmark left behind.
The Great Pyramid was a power generator. It was a device that would literally alter the frequency of the planet.
The Ark of the Covenant, it functioned as a conduit between Earth and the field.
The Zodiac is actually a clock. And right now that clock is broken. We can't read it.
The machine we live in has its own built-in mechanism to take over. So if you don't take over, it will take over.
Eternal or eternal life. That is connected to the base 12 source code. Why was it shifted over to base 10?
My goal is to uncover the lost technology, activate the hub, and reset the simulation to make it easier for the human expansion. Of course, if the simulation doesn't get in my way.
Melissa's just so switched on. She was, I think, our first or one of our very first guests on Talking Weird when Jen Durrell and I moved it from our own independent channel to the Untold Radio Network. So go back and check that out as well. Melissa's super fascinating. And I'm so delighted that we're going to be able to hang out with her, myself and the audience and the other filmmakers at MidWest WeirdFest and get to ask her all kinds of questions in person. It's going to be just an awesome session and an awesome festival in general. Following that, on the Saturday night at 8 p.m., we have the US premiere of a film from a Canadian-based director, although I think he might be US-based now. I know he goes back and forward, and that's John Fallon. John Fallon is a very interesting cat. I met him well over a decade ago now at a Night of Horror International Festival in Australia, actually. He's the person who founded Arrow in the Head, which is one of the most, I suppose, important horror websites. It's part of the Joe Blow family. And John was one of the very first horror journalists out there writing on the internet. Like, it was one of the first big sites. He was, the kind of guy who was, on the ground on the big horror movies in the 90s when bloggers and vloggers and people who were not official press were starting to be able to flex their muscles creatively and write about film as fans. And a lot of people were able to take that from an interest into a career. And John's an actor and a director. His last film, The Shelter, I played at a Night of Horror some time ago. It's a spectacular movie as well, starring Michael Paré. Let me see if I do believe I've got the trailer for Break here. Also, I'm not sure if John's coming to the festival. I hope that he can, but it's worth noting that Kevin Interdonato, who is a fairly significant actor, like you would have seen him in things, very talented actor. He also co-wrote this movie. He is definitely confirmed to be coming in. So he co-produced with John and co-wrote the documentary as well. So it'd be wonderful to have him Q&A and get to meet him because he's an incredible talent. You'll see him in the movie, in the trailer now, which I'm about to play.
Beautiful lake.
It's the best one I could find on such short notice.
No Wi-Fi?
Come on, we can all do without it for a weekend.
Can I help you? I hope you don't mind. I'm parking in your driveway. My truck broke down.
Oh, you should just stay here and eat with us. I mean, right, honey?
I used to bartend, and I make a special drink that I know you're gonna love. Would you bring that drink? I'm really sorry about how this is gonna go down. I'm gonna hurt you. And your mom. A real man would just fess up to his sins. A real man! Everything okay over there?
Maybe you should let him go.
Can't do.
Too bad.
Stab him! Let's get this party started.
That's what happens when I'm in the comment section getting ready to respond to people instead of ready to turn off the trailer. Anyway, that was Break, the guy who says, let's get this party started. At the end is the actor and writer I was talking about, Kevin Interdonato, who is coming to the festival. It's not for the squeamish, that movie, but if you like home invasion type thrillers and horror movies, if you like Michael Haneke movies, it's a masterful film. Masterful. And I'm just delighted again to be having it at the festival. And to go back a little bit, Joe Fox said that Code 12 looks unreal, meaning great. And Ken Rock says that looks good as well. So there's movies for everybody's taste who's into weird cinema, really, here at the festival. Here's another film which I'm absolutely... I couldn't be more delighted to have. It's the Midwest premiere, and it's a film that was made in the Midwest. It was made in Kansas City. And the director has been somebody who's been raved about by some of the film press. Filmmaker magazine, I think, counted him as one of the 20-something filmmakers to keep an eye on when he was a short filmmaker. And this month's issue of Filmmaker magazine has a rave review and an interview with Gary Huggins about this movie. And this movie is called Kick Me. It's a very interesting story. It took him 10 years to make this film. They had all kinds of crises. I think somebody's called it like the budget apocalypse now, because it's got this incredible scope to it for a low budget movie, but it also has all those kind of nightmare stories about finishing the same way that Apocalypse Now did. I will play the trailer. And it's fast moving. It's hilarious. It's a violent movie, but it reminds me of what's the Martin Scorsese movie? I think it's called After Hours, the one where the guy's kind of trapped in the city and he just can't get out and he gets trouble after trouble after trouble. But if that Martin Scorsese movie had been directed by, I don't know, like Robert Rodriguez when he was first making action movies, it would maybe feel a little bit like Kick Me. Anyway, you can see the trailer now and you'll know what I'm talking about.
I am not afraid of Kansas City, Kansas. I am not afraid of Kansas City, Kansas.
Really?
Luther, please be careful with the bunny. Why don't you give this a goddamn hug? Get that guy! Shut up! Oh no! I'm far too old to work with. Tell me another lie. Filthy!
It's so good. It's hilarious. It's for those of you who aren't watching the trailer, it's about a guidance counselor who tries to help one of his students who's involved in all kinds of manners of things he shouldn't be involved in, and how his night, the guidance counselor, just spirals into absolute craziness. I'm looking so forward to screening that at the festival. Also having Gary Huggins, and I think quite a number of the cast and crew are coming with the director to Q&A. So that's going to be a very special event. I think it's only had a couple of screenings previously. I know it screened at Another Hole in the Head in San Francisco not that long ago. And that's one of the premier genre festivals in the country. And it had rave reviews there. So this is a film which is going to have real legs. I'm just happy that I can show it to an audience to get to see it early, because this movie is going to be raved about as it travels the festival circuit. Now, the next film that evening is actually, it's also at 10 p.m. So people are going to have to choose, because this is a great movie as well. This is a film by Richard Wollstonecraft. Richard Wollstonecraft is one of the most controversial filmmakers in Australia. He's always in some kind of trouble or other. He's always, he's just one of those people who's controversial. And he makes films, he makes a wide range of movies, but this film, I think, what I enjoyed about it so much is it fits very firmly in that Ozploitation type over-the-top gritty action movie, which, was made famous probably in the 1970s originally, and it has a very Australian feel to it. So there's two Australian features: Your Love Is Mine and The Debt Collector this year. The Debt Collector, it's about a guy who is a trained IRA kind of hitman, but he was abused when he was a child in a Catholic orphanage, and now he has the skill set to do it when he returns to Australia and takes a job as a real debt collector. He decides to start having some payback on the people who made his life miserable as a child, and he rescues a young woman who's in a similar situation, and she encourages him to continue his run of vengeance. And that decision, I guess, has all kinds of terrible and spiraling consequences. Anyway, here's the trailer.
What's all this about then?
The seventh circle of hell, Pratt.
Who are you?
I'm Frank Vaughan.
Well, I'll be damned. Little Francis Vaughan.
You want to send me into the darkness?
Who were the other men?
You killed him, didn't you?
How'd you get in this mess? What a waste. Look how hot you are.
You're young. You're keen. You enjoy kicking heads. But you killed my little brother. Francis. James. Look, who else is after me?
It's good to have a lot of enemies.
If you like revenge thrillers and gritty Australian Ozploitation movies, you're going to love The Debt Collector. Joe Fox chimed in before as well and agreed with me that Kick Me was very Rodriguez-esque. Yes, it definitely is. It's lots of fun. And speaking of lots of fun, we come back to the movie I told you to remember before, which was written or co-written and stars Robert Bryn Mann, who was in the chat with us before, along with Darren Zimmer. It's directed by Douglas James Lukic, and it's called Welcome to Kittytown. It's a kind of a buddy comedy, post-apocalyptic movie, very dark in parts, hilarious throughout. The trailer, I believe, is one of those trailers which has been watched hundreds of thousands of times, even before the movie was released. I'm so happy we have this film at MidWest WeirdFest. It's such a wonderful fit for the festival, and the audience are just going to love it. So I'll play the trailer for you now.
The end of the human race, and I'm still around to see it. They called it the miracle GMO, the cure to world hunger. Instead, it was a bacterial monster that affected the soil, the plants, became airborne. Taken enough, you shit yourself to death.
If anyone can hear this, please respond. I am speaking on behalf of the mayor of Kittytown. We have running water, food, generators, heat, medicine. Anyone on this frequency, please respond.
Goodbye, Anna. You got till the count of 3 to come out. What? 2.
It's a clever trailer in that it doesn't give away probably the most significant ongoing part of the story, which maybe I spoiled when I was doing my little blurb about it. But it's actually far funnier than that. They do a pretty good job at hiding most of the comedy because the movie's hilarious. It's funny like Shaun of the Dead's funny. It's amazing. After Welcome to Kittytown on the Sunday at 4 p.m. we have a movie called The Diabetic, which has, I suppose, perhaps some funny moments, but it isn't really a funny movie at all. It's a film by Mitchell Staffage, and I hope I pronounced Mitchell's last name correctly. And Mitchell's a diabetic himself. And the film's kind of made in a way and not in a preachy way at all, but it's made as almost to put a focus on what's essentially an invisible disability, because you don't really notice somebody who has diabetes necessarily in day-to-day life unless you live with them or they're your friend and you see what they go through. But it's about a man who's a diabetic, and he returns to his hometown, which he kind of despises. It's almost like a bedsit community, outside of a city, and it's not exciting. And he wants to go back to have fun with his friends from his past and relive his glory days. And the only person who hangs out with him is an acquaintance that he doesn't really like anyway, and their evening just spirals, not in the funny way perhaps that we saw in Kick Me, but as this character becomes increasingly frustrated, he takes him and the acquaintance in all kinds of dark directions. And it's shot in a very naturalistic lo-fi way. Like the filmmaker works with things like Super 16 and video formats which aren't top of the state-of-the-art video formats, but it's a gorgeous film. Gorgeous in the way that it feels like you're watching, because you're watching something on film, so it feels in some ways like you're watching something from the 70s. The performances are so naturalistic, And because the camera work is so kind of cinema verite at times, it feels like you're really traveling with these two guys. It feels like you're almost a fly on the wall. It doesn't, there's not a moment in there where the performances feel not real. In fact, there are so many moments in the movie where they're cringy because it's like if you were there and this person's pushing you to do things and go places you don't want to do, and not cringy like it's a bad performance, cringy like you're like, oh my, if I was in this situation, it would be so difficult to deal with. An incredibly potent film. One of the most powerful films I've seen this year easily, and I watch a lot of cinema. Just an incredible movie. So if you want to get along to that, it's unlike anything else that you've probably seen for a very long time. And we got a lovely comment here from Robert Bryn Mann, who again is one of the leads and writers of Welcome to Kittytown. He said it's an absolute pleasure to be part of the festival. These other films look incredible as well. I think they're all incredible, and Welcome to Kittytown's an absolute blast. The audience are just going to love it. Now, those of you who tuned into last week's show, and it's obviously archived on both untoldradioam.com as well as YouTube and Facebook on it, across every podcast platform, I had Aaron Mertis on, who is the writer and director of The Bigfoot Trap, another world premiere at the festival this year. It's, as the name, I guess, of the movie suggests, it's about a Bigfoot trap. It's about a journalist who wants to get a story almost at any cost and, increase his visibility. And he gets told to go and film this guy who has a Bigfoot trap. And he goes in, I suppose, with not the best intentions. And it doesn't turn out really well. Anyway, let's have a look at the trailer for that, because I don't think we played the trailer last week. So you guys will get to see the trailer. Again, this is a world premiere. So those at the festival will be literally the first people on the planet, probably other than the filmmaker and editor and people like that who've seen the movie. Okay, so he goes.
Congrats. 4 million views in one weekend?
Never actually had one blow up like this before.
I found someone for your next video.
Hi, my name's Red Wilson, and I have created the world's second Sasquatch trap.
You want me to film him catching Bigfoot?
No. I want you to film him not catching Bigfoot and realizing he's an idiot.
Isn't that kind of mean?
He's the one that wanted the press. There's definitely something out there last night.
So you believe it?
Believe what?
That what you just saw was a Sasquatch.
What are you seeing?
Look, it's her.
Keep the camera steady.
We need to run.
No! Shot it! What the hell, man? I told you to stay back! You shot it!
What are you doing? Red, let me out of here!
He's dead.
I'm so sorry.
You meant to shoot him.
I didn't know it was a person.
An eye for an eye. Isn't that what they say?
Just let me out.
I'll let you go and you'll tell everyone I'm a psycho. You ain't leaving till we find us a Sasquatch.
You're crazy. There's nothing out here.
Don't call me crazy.
I gotta get out of here.
Give me the phone right now!
Brian McMahon just joined and said, this looks pretty cool. It is pretty cool. The wonderful thing is Aaron was saying when he was on last week's Talking Weird was, as much as he likes Bigfoot exploitation type movies, as I think all of us do, is he wanted to do a movie like that, but also have a movie which had social commentary in it, which is about the way that people who are interested in strange things are often treated very badly by the media, and what bullying means, and how we all need to be better. And so there is that, but there's also a heck of a lot, as you can see, exploitation, Bigfoot fun in that movie. Just a great movie. Go back and check out the Aaron Mertis interview from last week if you didn't hear it as well. He has a very deep knowledge on exploitation cinema, as well as a keen interest in Bigfoot. So that was a really fun conversation that we had last week here on Talking Weird. Now, the final film of the festival, as I was mentioning, so many of the films we're screening this year are world premieres, or they're international premieres, or they're US premieres, or they're pretty early on their festival run. Follow Her has already had an incredibly successful run. This is probably towards the end of its festival screening run. It'll probably get distributed very shortly thereafter. It's a fantastic film. It's directed by Sylvia Kaminer, and it's written and also stars Danny Barker, who's just amazing in this movie. It shares some similar themes in a weird way to the Bigfoot trap, which we were just talking about. It's about a woman who answers weird personal classified ads and then kind of films her interactions with the people that she responds to the ads with, and to drive her views on YouTube and on social. And then it asks what happens when she gets, too involved perhaps in one that she shouldn't, or maybe she replies to a classified ad that she really shouldn't have replied to. Anyway, let's play the trailer. Great film, really worth seeing.
I have confirmed the screenwriting job, so join me on Wednesday when I'm meeting Tom B in the park.
I'm Tom.
How are you?
Oh, I'm better now that I found my co-writer.
You live in a barn? That's a bad idea.
Could make it more fun. How about this? You come up with the next part of the script, and then you improvise, see how it pans out. Who survives? You social media stars, you think the world is all about your shitty content. No.
What do you want from me?
Yeah, great. Sylvia Kaminer, who's the director of that film, is coming in to introduce it in Q&A, and that's the film which closes out the festival, which is always followed by a very cool after party in a nearby bar. So if you're over 21, you can come and hang out with the filmmakers and myself and the rest of the audience on closing night as well. It's always sad when the festival ends, but it always ends on such a high note, because that bar is just that closing night party. Whether it was we didn't always have it in a bar. We used to have it in a media venue nearby, but that place is closed, unfortunately. We used to do all of our additional festival things in there, as well as the private after party, which was just great. So that's pretty much MidWest WeirdFest for this year, at least to wrap up. And then I suppose an overview of the feature films. So there's 16 feature films. There's also 60-something short films. I just realized I still have it here, so I'm going to play it again because it's so good. It's just fantastic. I've had a lot of, obviously, the filmmakers on recently, as I like to in the lead up to MidWest WeirdFest, and we had Brian on to talk about his Fred Chrisman in the Cave of the Space Nazis, because I'm so fascinated with the Shaver mystery and with Ray Palmer and with the idea that there are these underground Deros beings. And here's a kind of a comedy, I guess, short film. It's a great example of some of the weird short films we have at the festival. We have some really out there, strange things, but often with incredible production qualities, just like this, which I'm about to show you now. And this will be the last trailer. And then we'll have a little chat and say goodnight.
I'm meeting with a man who is by no stretch of the imagination shy about his claims.
My name is Fred Chrisman. I'm a real person.
Deros masquerade supreme.
I'm in the business of collecting and archiving amazing stories.
I think he's dead.
Oh my God!
Do you know what minerals the cave was composed of?
20% limestone and 80% space Nazi monsters! There is no I in team, but there is always a man in Chrisman.
Brian Shickley, the animator and director of that film, he's a young guy, incredibly talented. Fred Chrisman, who is the character you were just seeing fighting the Deros, or the space Nazis as he calls them, actually claimed to have fought Deros in a cave during World War II in response to the Shaver mystery, which was something Ray Palmer, who the animated version features there as well, claimed in his magazine Amazing Stories was actually happening, that Richard Shaver, one of his authors, had knowledge of these underground alien-type beings which were interfering with humanity. Interestingly, Brian Shickley is also currently making a documentary about Fred Chrisman, and has had access, I think, to Fred Chrisman's family and has some of his papers and all kinds of recordings and things. So hopefully we'll get that in a future year at MidWest WeirdFest. Anyway, I'm really grateful for you all for having watched tonight. If you can't come to the festival, remember those films, because eventually they'll be accessible in other places. I can't recommend them all highly enough. I only program films that I really dig myself. I hope to see some of you at the festival. Again, maybe you can't make it with a week's notice, but think about next March, the first weekend in March. A lot of filmmakers come in, a lot of fans of sci-fi, the paranormal. You know, you're in like-minded company at MidWest WeirdFest, and we're very social. We're very low-key. It's not like when you go to a con and there's thousands of people. This is literally in a cinema with 2 cinemas upstairs and downstairs, and the bottom one. It's like if you've ever been to an Alamo Draft House where you can eat and drink, and you can order your food and they bring it to you. There's a bench across the seating. So you don't even have to really leave the cinema for the whole weekend, except to probably go back to your hotel and sleep, which is about all I do. Anyway, I'll be there. I believe Jen Durrell will be there. And I know there are some listeners and viewers who I know are going to be there. So if you want to come along and hang out with us, that would be wonderful. And Joe says, thanks for introducing these to us. It was my absolute delight to show these. And Ed says that his wife is going to have nightmares. I'm sorry, I didn't get to everybody's comments. There were quite a lot tonight. It's hard to drive, to talk, and to also play trailers. It's times like this I need a co-host. Anyway, thank you all so much. Next week, I won't be doing the show live, but watch it. There's going to be a show with Norio Hayakawa, who is the subject of the wonderful documentary we're playing, The Conspiratologist, which is a short documentary. I would have played the trailer for it tonight. He's has been at the forefront of UFO and conspiracy research for 30, 40 years. Fascinating human being. You might remember one of his stories. He was with the Japanese camera crew that were chased by black helicopters outside of Area 51. Like, there's little footage of them getting run off the road. So he's got all kinds of wonderful stories. So that interview is a pre-record. I've already done it. Fantastic interview though. So tune in next week. And I mightn't be in the chat because I'll actually be at the festival running. But please watch anyway. You're going to enjoy it. And hopefully I'll see some of you at the festival. That's what I would really love and enjoy. And I guess until I come back and talk to you all, pre-recorded next week and live the following. Thank you for listening, and keep it weird.